Chapter 34. What we heard next was the sound of running steps. Whoever had shut the door was sprinting away, the footfalls diminishing fast. Then all became silent. Sam went to the door. He fumbled for the latch, then shook and rattled it. It refused to budge. "Locked," he said. We were dumb to stay in here. "Did you see who it was?" "No." I joined Sam. The two of us struggled with the door. It wouldn't open. "He probably pegged the hasp," said Sam. I pulled out my knife and used it to poke at the door. That proved useless. I heard Sam's agitated breathing. "Who," I said, "do you think it was?" "You just heard someone out on the water, didn't you?" "Think so." "That crimp, he did follow you." He was looking around. "We're stuck. At least we have air." He gestured toward the small porthole. "Thad will come," I said. "With all these dead ships," said Sam, "how's he going to figure out which one we're on?" There was anger in his voice. I envisioned Thad on the beach calling to us, we not responding. I said, "He'll know something happened. Come after us." Maybe. Sam was right, though. Even if Thad guessed things had gone amiss, he'd have no idea where we were. Out of heart, blaming myself for shouting, I sat on the floor and with my back propped against a wall, tried to think what to do. I had no ideas. Cold, I reached for my shawl, only to realize it must have fallen off. I didn't even bother to look for it. The damp clung to me. I shivered. "I make a lot of mistakes," I said. "People do," returned Sam. He was sitting against a nearby wall. For the longest while we didn't speak. Twice we attempted to force the door. It was of no use. After a while I said, "Sam, what's going to happen to us?" "Nothing." "But—" "Told you. Castle don't give a hoot. You think that crimper cares? Took my brother, didn't they? Took yours. Why should they worry about us?" He was quiet for a moment and then said, "What about your friend, Señor Rosales? Does he have any idea where we are?" "Not really. Does your father know?" "Didn't tell him I was coming here. Wouldn't have let me." "Why?" "He told me to have nothing to do with Castle. Or you. The only thing he can think about is trying to find work so as to get us back east." "By ship?" "Don't think walking will work." We lapsed into silence. "Sam, we can't stay here forever." "Forever's not going to happen." "What do you mean?" "We'll either die here, starve, or they'll come and do away with us." "Why?" "They got a good business going." But I don't want to be here," I cried out, only to realize how pointless it was to act and say such things that way. As I sat there, I recalled believing, when my family sailed into San Francisco, that life was enhanced when embracing changes. Childish, I told myself. Sam remained quiet. I continued to sit, though at one point I shouted out, "Thad!" It was yet another useless thing to do. Sam said nothing. We sat, waited, and listened to the sounds of the old ship creaking. I'm not sure how long we were there, but at some point I had an idea. "My shawl," I said. "What about it?" "I dropped it, I think in here somewhere." "You cold?" "That small porthole, if I dangle the shawl out and Thad sees it, he might guess where we are." It took some time, but we found the shawl on one of the berths. It took only a moment for me to push it out through the small porthole so that most of it hung outside. From that point on, all we could do was wait and hope. The air was cold and clammy, as if the fog had seeped in and closed around us. In the dimness, it was impossible to say how much time passed. We didn't talk much, and as I had eaten hardly anything that day, my hunger increased. At some point, I began to hear high-pitched squeaking. "Rats," Sam said. "If they get close, kick at them." I hugged myself that much tighter. To keep up my spirits, I asked Sam to tell me about his time on a whaling ship. His tales about his 3-year voyage were extraordinary. In return, he asked me about my life. To my ears, our family existence in Providence was altogether indifferent, but when I told him why and how we came to California, our accounts were not so unlike. Our father's fever for gold. "You sorry you came to California?" he asked. "Most of it was good," I said, "until Jacob." "You sorry?" "Yep. My father and I, all we want to do is get home to Sag Harbor safe and free." After a while he asked, "You think your father will get lots of gold?" "It'd be splendid if he did, but I don't think he will." "Why?" "You know, not many do, and it's not his kind of work." "If he did get gold, what would he do with it?" "He's going to build us a big house." "What's your home back east like?" Sam described his village as a small fishing and whaling port on Long Island, about 100 miles from New York City. I said, "If my father gets gold, I'll make him buy you passage home." "Thanks," said Sam, "but you just said you didn't think he'll get much." "True." We lapsed into dreary silence. After a while I said, "Tell me about your brother." Sam held off a bit, then said, "Named Otis. When I was little I couldn't say it right. Called him Oates. It stuck. Older than me, smart, a fiddler, good one too. Oates was my best." Even as Sam spoke we heard the unmistakable sounds of steps overhead again. "Shh," Sam cautioned. We stared up. The steps kept on, slow, careful. "It might be Thad," I whispered. "I could call." "Like last time? What if it's the crimps coming to finish us?" I shut my mouth. The footsteps crossed overhead, faded, and then died out. Within moments they resumed. Whoever was on the main deck appeared to be wandering, perhaps searching. I could only hope the person didn't discover where we were. Next moment I told myself that the crimps had locked us in here, so these footsteps couldn't be made by the same people. That is, unless they were coming to make sure we were still here and were intending to do away with us. The footsteps ceased as if the person above were gone. We remained motionless. Moments later, however, a faint light, shaped like the blade of a white knife, poked under the forecastle door into where we were. It was all too clear. Whoever had been above was now on the lower deck, not far from where we were. As I stared at the light, it appeared to be growing brighter. The person was approaching the door. In the faint glow I saw Sam make a motion. It was as he had suggested before. I should move to the right side of the door while he went to the left. If the person opened the door and intended to do us harm, we might be able to get out or overpower whoever it was. In quiet haste we took our positions and stood waiting. I tried to keep calm, but I took out my knife and held it in my hand. The light withdrew. I heard someone fumbling with the latch. The door began to swing open. I held my breath.